Morning. Ladies and gentlemen, participants of the first International Polish-Slovak Scientific Conference on Innovations and Future Challenges in Healthcare. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me thank the organizers for inviting me to deliver the inaugural lecture. My name is Joanna Gottlieb, and I represent the Medical University of Warsaw. For several years now, I have had the pleasure of leading the Department of Education and Research in Health Sciences. In recent years, in line with the current and emerging trends around the world, we have started research related to the possibilities of using generative artificial intelligence in the field of health sciences. And today, during the conference, I have the great pleasure of presenting to you the results of the research conducted in my department. Research related to the possibilities of using GPT chat to simplify medical content, medical information related to cervical cytology and screening for a specific group of recipients. I will show how. In practice, GPT chat can be used to improve health education methods and tailor them to the needs of modern patient groups. Ladies and gentlemen, the esteemed current research findings are comprehensive and available. The scientific literature clearly indicates that GPT chat is extensively used, generates accurate, true information about health. The national scientific literature clearly indicates and demonstrates that health information, regardless of the medical field, it pertains to and is crucial for understanding. The information generated by GPT chat is true. They are not harmful to the patient. Maybe they may not be strictly aligned with the current accurate medical guidelines. However, what is indeed significant and what was initially a concern for everyone that used highly advanced generative artificial intelligence, these are hallucinations, meaning the possibility of GPT chat generating false and harmful information for the patient. At this moment, the analysis of international literature indeed indicates quite clearly that GPT chat generates true and non-hallucinated factual information about health, which can be helpful for medical professionals in the field. Health and health education in all fields of medicine. A detailed analysis of the international literature regarding the properties and truthfulness of medical content generated by GPT chat on gynecology and obstetrics, consistent with other areas of medicine. Also in gynecology and obstetrics, GPT chat generates real capabilities, medical information that can be considered helpful and beneficial in educating patients in various ways. If we analyze the available scientific publications that have been published recently in the last year, we see that both publications regarding guidelines for diagnostic tests for cancer, as well as genetic counseling for cancers, women's as well as general medical information, and improving health literacy in the group. Patients, GPT chat can be used in counseling, also in gynecology and obstetrics, and the content that are generated by GPT chat will not be harmful to my patients, but will be helpful. In translation, explaining is often complex and intricate. Published medical issues. Why did we start research related to gynecology and obstetrics and the area of preventive studies aimed at detecting cervical cancer changes? Of course, indeed, cervical cancer is still one of the cancers for which women in Poland sometimes die. Most often, however, the analysis that we can find in Google Trends is also important. If we look at the chart available on the slide, you can see that the area of gynecology in Google Trends over the past year, 5 years worldwide. This was indeed one of the topics that came up very, very often, searched in Google, which is why topics related to gynecology and obstetrics are those topics which are searched for when it comes to the field of medicine the most often. However, ladies and gentlemen, what may be surprising for those who are just getting to know this framework, the possibilities of using ChatGPT in health sciences, this is that modern research shows that the medical information generated by ChatGPT in English is difficult for the average audience to understand. The results of studies published in the international scientific literature clearly indicate that the medical information generated by ChatGPT can also be understood at this time. In the field of gynecology and obstetrics, the information is understandable only for those with higher education. The authors urge that ChatGPT can be used for health education and can serve as a tool that helps dedicated medical professionals in spreading health information. However, the information generated by ChatGPT is too difficult for the average patient to understand. And for it to be understandable, the patient would have to have completed their education. They would need to have an education higher. That's why scientific literature has indeed seen publications that demonstrate the potential of ChatGPT in simplifying information. In medicine, that is, the authors of the presented publications show how ChatGPT can be used to simplify medical information. People for whom the standard information generated by ChatGPT will be too difficult, such as unclear, and as a result, they will also be useless. Such publications are currently available in the literature. The extensive analysis of the available scientific literature in this area clearly shows that ChatGPT can be an extremely useful tool, for example, to simplify the information contained in the descriptions of radiological studies. Right now, we can find a lot of publications in the literature that present research results on how to use ChatGPT in various fields and domains, exploring different methodologies and applications. To simplify the descriptions of radiological studies, to simplify the descriptions of computed tomography, magnetic resonance imaging, or ultrasound examinations. However, it should be noted that most of the publications available in the international literature are studies analyzing the effectiveness of using ChatGPT to generate or simplify medical information, but generated in English. Therefore, there is an urgent need to thoroughly analyze the effectiveness, efficiency, and overall impact of creating medical information by ChatGPT in languages other than English. That's why in the studies that I have discussing now, I would like to present to you that we analyzed the content that was generated in Polish. The aim of the research conducted by the team I lead was to analyze the language, difficulty, level of medical content related to cytology. Cervical cytology generated by GPT chat in Polish, but also the analysis of the impact of an advanced prompting method, which is also called audience persona prompting. The quality of simplified medical information and tailoring it to the needs of individuals with basic education. Before I move on to a detailed description of the research conducted, I would first like to present to you two main assumptions regarding communication with ChatGPT. Maybe some of you may probably not have encountered this topic yet, but one of the most effective methods of communicating with GPT chat is assigning a role to the chat before we ask a question. In this regard, we can perhaps, for example, ask a question, act as a gynecologist, or act as a nurse, or act as a midwife, and answer specific questions. This form of communication with ChatGPT is essentially often referred to as persona prompting or role-playing prompting, and it aims to evoke the correct context from the artificial intelligence. What does that mean? Help with more. A precise answer to our question, which is of course very important, especially when we want to generate medical information. Another way to communicate with artificial intelligence, including with GPT chat, is an instruction for the ChatGPT model regarding the audience of our message. We can convey in a very simple way what we want, the level of difficulty of the language that will be generated by the GPT chat. We can simply specify the audience of the message that will be generated by the GPT chat. This form of communication with ChatGPT is called audience persona prompting. And it consists of just simply typing into the ChatGPT, prepare information that is understandable for a person with a higher education. Or, for example, prepare information and a way to communicate medical information for a person with specific informational needs. Starting the analysis. After analyzing the scientific literature, we created a list of the 49 most frequently asked questions about cytology, cervix. Then we generated answers in the ChatGPT to those 49 most frequently asked questions. Each answer was generated by the GPT chat 4 times. Each time, a new conversation window with ChatGPT was opened to avoid the learning effect of ChatGPT. And then we analyzed the difficulty level of the standard answers that the GPT chat generated for the 49 questions about cytology. Cervix. Next, we applied just like before. I mentioned a special method of creating prompts for ChatGPT, which is a special way of communicating with ChatGPT, which involves specifying for which audience ChatGPT should create the information. To the 49 previously created questions, we simply added a message. Explain. Like for an average Polish woman who has completed basic education. The purpose of this prompting method was to generate medical content that would be understandable for patients with basic education. We generated approximately another 196 simplified responses through ChatGPT. Answers. We analyzed and compared the standard content generated by ChatGPT with the content that was meant to be simplified content. In summary, we finally analyzed 392 responses from GPT chats regarding the most frequently asked questions in the field of examination. Cervical cytology, which is the examination of the cells from the cervix. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, for our analysis, we used the ChatGPT chatbot model created by OpenAI. This advanced model used the GPT-4o technology model and was used in the studies. The paid version of ChatGPT. We asked the question in both standard and simplified forms. Simplified questions aim to generate easier, more understandable medical information for users with basic education, such as about cytology. Cervical. 2. The standard question, yes. An explanatory message was used for the recipient of the message, i.e., it would explain the issue as for a Polish woman who has only basic education. And on the slide, you can see how these two messages differed. So, the message in the standard version and the message in the simplified version, they were different, only and exclusively an explanation of who we will be addressing. Response by ChatGPT. Next, for the analysis of the difficulty of the texts generated by ChatGPT, we used a Polish application that is available on the website Jasnopis.pl. This is standardized software commonly used for analyzing difficulty and effectively the Polish language. The response generated by ChatGPT was pasted into the Jasnopis.pl program window. And in this program, all the factors were analyzed that affect difficulty of text generated by ChatGPT. In the presentation, in the slide, you can see the results of this analysis from the Jasnopis.pl window. Pasted was training. The content generated by ChatGPT was pasted and an analysis was conducted. In this case, the analysis indeed showed that the difficulty level of the text generated by ChatGPT was 3, on a scale of 1 to 7, where 1 is the lowest. This is the easiest language to understand, and 7 is the language the most difficult to understand, requiring a higher education level, such as a PhD, doctorate, or specialization in a given field. However, we didn't just analyze the level of difficulty, but we also examined in detail 24 factors that influence the level of understanding. The message generated by ChatGPT. On the slide, you have the opportunity to get acquainted with a comprehensive set of 24 indicators that talk about the level of difficulty of the message in Polish. Of course, I won't go into detail about all these elements, but you can see how comprehensive this analysis is. Analysis through which we can analyze the content generated by ChatGPT. Next, our comprehensive statistical analysis indicated that out of the 24 analyzed indicators, there was a significant difference in 21 of them, statistically, between standard texts and text generated as text. Only ici. Texts that were generated by ChatGPT Only in the case of 3 factors was there no statistical significance between standard texts and easy texts generated by ChatGPT. A detailed analysis of the content and a detailed analysis of standard messages and simplified messages, it showed that when it comes to standard messages, they were at a level of 5 on a scale from 1 to 7, as I already mentioned, which means that communism, that to understand the message, the recipient should have completed at least 15 years of education in the formal education system in Poland. When it comes to the analysis, simplified, more accessible and comprehensive messages, medical messages, information about cervical cytology. In this case, the score was 4, which is significantly lower. However, the analysis also indicated that to understand the messages generated by ChatGPT, the recipient should have completed their studies, at least at the level of bachelor's or engineering degree. As a result, we obtained additional findings that are consistent with the results presented by other authors in the scientific literature. ChatGPT has the potential to simplify complex messages and complicated medical information. However, it does not adjust them to the level for recipients with basic education. It is necessary to use and look for other methods will created messages that were understandable for recipients with basic education. As I mentioned, the analysis showed that only 3 factors comparing standard text with simplified content were not statistically significant, and all these factors relate to the length of the content generated by ChatGPT. So, regardless of whether we produce or generate standard medical information in any form or format in ChatGPT or medical information that are supposed to be simplified, ChatGPT will generate content of similar length, especially when it comes to the number of paragraphs, the average length of paragraphs, and the number of sentences included in the generated message. In summary, the research results obtained and essentially comparing them with the findings presented in the international literature. ChatGPT shows significant potential in adapting medical content and understanding. In our case, regarding cervical cytology, it effectively caters to the needs of Polish patients with varying levels of education in a comprehensive manner, ensuring clarity and better accessibility. However, one should know the communication techniques with ChatGPT that will allow us to generate easier content. To understand the content for the patient, this is indeed a new challenge for medical staff to learn ways of communicating with ChatGPT. However, we should look for further ways for ChatGPT to create content that is appropriate for recipients with basic education. On the results of our own research compared to the results available in the international scientific literature, these results are consistent. In the studies that I had the pleasure of presenting to you, simplified content, simplified medical content about cytology, cervical cytology, even though they were significantly easier to understand, they were still too difficult for the audience with basic education. So it should be kept in mind that ChatGPT does not simplify content in a way that will be understandable for audiences with basic education, I think it has significant practical importance for medical professionals using this technology. Thank you very much for. I am open to collaborating with you on using ChatGPT in scientific research in the field of health sciences, and also sharing with you techniques and ways for effective communication with artificial intelligence. Thank you very much.